Hey, hi, and hello, everyone. Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. I hope you are doing well. In this video, I want to stop and take an opportunity, take a second to praise one of the greatest rock albums of all time in the genre's classic catalog. That would be Pink Floyd's Animals. Recently, the band and their label saw fit to release a remixed version of the record. I guess a mix that is being labeled as the 2018 mix. It's been sitting around for that long, but it's now just seeing the light of day. Of course, it's a record I'm dying to hear a remix of because, yeah, I love it. I love it from front to back. But I have always felt like there were maybe some qualities about it that were a little rough around the edges. For sure, it's not a record that is as slickly produced as Dark Side of the Moon. But in terms of concept and content, to me, it's like, really one of the best, if not the best, Pink Floyd records. So, the chance to hear a version of the album that sounds maybe better is pretty exciting. I went into this with high hopes, not just because of my love for the record, but also I have been enjoying some of the remix work that has been dropping as of late with records and bands from this era. You guys have seen quite a few videos on this channel by now where we're talking about various remixes of Beatles albums that have dropped lately. I feel like I'm almost a pushover with that shit as of late with how much I enjoyed the recent Revolver remix. However, remixing a record like Animals is a different animal in a way because we're talking about like 5 tracks here. 2 of which are an intro and an outro. The other 3 tracks are, lengthy 10+ minute monsters with various shifts in instrumental palette, and you have the guitar, the bass, the drums, the vocals, the keys, and all that to take into account. Like, not only do those need to be sounding great and crisp and balanced, but whatever this new mix was, I hoped that it would complement the various changes and phases that occur through all these tracks. Again, I think Animals is one of the best albums of all time, and to do anything to it that would make it worse would be utter blasphemy, in my opinion. And after listening to this mix, I gotta say, it sounds fantastic. It sounds really good. Again, I feel like I'm almost a sucker for this stuff at this point because I don't really have a whole lot of notes or super negative stuff to say. I'm sure maybe there are some audiophiles out there that are not happy with the fact that this time around the mixes do feel a bit punchier, a bit fuller, a bit bassier, but at least to my ears, it does not sound like the body of these songs is being ruined or destroyed in the process, because you still do hear those dynamics quite a bit as we hit certain points where you might get a rush of drums and guitar and so on and so forth. The thing that really struck me about this record really right off the bat is the clarity. Even with Pigs on the Wing 1, which you guys remember is like that little intro acoustic cut, right away you notice that Roger Waters' vocals, they are much drier than they are on the original mix. The reverb and the echo and everything is like still there a little bit, but it's mostly gone. You really just kind of hear his voice and that acoustic guitar in a much richer state. And, again, that had me a little worried because when you are stripping out things like reverb or echo, effects that tend to hide blemishes or, kind of bleed over details that you might not want to hear or things that would have been issues, were you able to catch them a little bit easier? When you're doing that, you got to watch out because you could potentially, be exposing the audience to stuff that they weren't meant to be exposed to. But honestly, the clarity that has been brought here has only revealed great performances and instrumentation, honestly. The instrumentation, as soon as we kick things off on the song Dogs, is sounding richer, it's punchier, it's bassier, it's louder, not so loud it's like super aggressive and kind of ruining the body, ruining the dynamics. But there is a bit more beef there that I think lends to the urgency of some of the shifts on these tracks, or some of the groovier moments, like, the beats and bass that kind of propel us toward the end of the song Sheep. The guitars have a bit more chunkiness and a bit more heaviness to them as well, whether you're talking about the more riffy passages or even some of the harmonized solos. And again, the piece of instrumentation that I think is served best by this newfound clarity is Roger Waters' vocals, whether you're talking about, again, that intro track, the outro track, or, some of the vocal harmony work. I shall ride you up. From moment to moment, from movement to movement, everything on this new mix is just sounding more colorful and richer and, again, punchier. Kind of going over the mix from track to track, it's pretty consistent, honestly. It's not the same ball game as, you know, doing the White Album or doing Revolver, where it's like so radically different in terms of instrumental palette from song to song. Really, a lot of the details and changes and improvements that you will catch on a track like Dogs carry over onto the other tracks of the record as well. The toms! Some of the toms on Pigs and that cowbell are sounding super bassy, super heavy as well. I feel like I'm behind the kit sometimes with how the bass kind of rolls off of some of these drums. The clarity is just so good. The clarity is so great. I just really cannot, you know, praise the clarity of the instrumentation on this record enough. It's to the point where not just the bass instrumentation sounds better than it ever has, in my opinion, but there's little psychedelic details, you know, between the lines of guitar and bass and drums that I just honestly was not catching before on the original LP, whether it was on streaming or whether it was on vinyl, because I have the vinyl version of it as well. So to those who worked on the remix of this record, I really do have to praise them on their artistry, their vision, their respect to the original record, and also their discretion, because while there are some things in terms of effects that were clearly changed, clearly shifted, clearly, you know, brought down in order to make things a little bit more, again, clear. It seems they really kind of kept that stuff in when it counted, like the various vocal manipulations all over the song Sheep. So it's not like the magic and the studio trickery and, you know, some of the more experimental bits of these songs were totally taken out in order to just kind of give you, you know, an all-around drier, more lifeless presentation of the sound. That is not the case. Don't expect a version of this record that is somehow less vivid in terms of details and color. Mostly just seems like when something could have been brought more front and center, it was, and it ultimately was to the benefit of these tracks and pieces. I'm loving this remix. This remix is super fucking good. Very, very, very happy with the quality of it. And believe me, if I was unhappy with how this came out, you would be hearing from me. I'm probably going to sit on this version for a bit, and after I acclimate myself to it a little bit more, then maybe go back to, you know, the original, like on vinyl or something like that, and just kind of do a bit of a more of a Pepsi challenge. So if you guys have listened to this new mix, if you've spun it yourselves, let me know in the comments if you loved it, hated it, anything else in between. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Pink Floyd, Animals 2018, forever.